Communing with Robots is a thought experiment that probes AI language models. This was a relatively obscure and emergent post-digital art practice when the work was developed in 2021. Since then, AI rhetoric and its commodity logic have spread quickly. The rapid worldwide communion with ChatGPT, which by January 2023 had an estimated 100 million monthly active users just 2 months after launch, making it the fastest-growing consumer application in history, is indicative of the hyperspeed at which industrialist models reduce everyday social and mental experiences of global populations into an online commodity. When attention is drawn to the non-humanness of artificial intelligence through satire, which is a primary technique for social criticism, the perceived wisdom and established ideas behind its programmer's authority, the goodwill behind its conception and use, and the public's trust in AI can be undermined.
Communing with Robots is a post-digital artwork commissioned by the World Science Festival, Brisbane 2022, for the public art exhibition Curiosity. The work questions how an individual's sense of trust and privacy might be affected in cities where social spaces are increasingly subjected to and mediated by information communications technologies.
A playful civic hack, Communing with Robots uses artificial intelligence to generate poetic gibberish from a standing reserve of global surplus data remixed with pseudo-surveillance imagery to provide a sense of cathartic relief to the rhetoric surrounding the malicious use of AI. GPT-2 was probed using textual inputs and was repeatedly asked, "Can I trust you?" Each time, it responded differently with strangely beautiful original textual responses. Pseudo-surveillance imagery of the urban environment was generated to form the background of Communing with Robots' kinetic text. This imagery was made heuristically and heavily abstracted as a responsive and playful mode of artistic inquiry into how algorithmically enhanced surveillance cameras might see, understand, and reinterpret the world. This gesture mimicked the pan-tilt zoom surveillance cameras I observed attempting to track and monitor my activities. Outdoor surveillance camera networks track, analyze, and identify subjects through facial recognition, and use geometric localization, triangulation, and tracking to follow a subject once detected before the image data is abstracted, fused, and reconfigured by an algorithm. The work critiques notions of the so-called smart city transformed into a schema of panoptic surveillance and control, exacerbated by the Internet of Everything, where people, plants, machines, data, processes, objects, and urban infrastructure are connected to form the network structures that permeate everyday life. This asymmetrical power over information is a situation where algorithms, and those that control them, have more access to information about individuals than the individuals have about the algorithms and their programmers.
Artificial intelligence nonsense prose and poetry was generated to draw attention away from the technologically determined uses of artificial intelligence technologies, which serve political, social, and economic interests, a particular concern in public spaces with the emergence of smart everything paradigm in the urban environment. The in-fair web interface was used to create absurdist prose and poetry by accessing and interfacing with the OpenAI GPT-2 algorithm. This was driven by a desire to experiment with the fallibility of AI language models, which often lead to text that is incredibly degenerate. Awkward, incoherent, and almost unrelated to the context, different degrees of sampling and temperatures were used each time I asked GPT-2, "Can I trust you?" And in each instance, GPT-2 responded differently. In-fair kit can be controlled with a probability threshold slider control that ranges from 0 to 1. Inputs with high threshold values take samples from many sources to generate the text. Lower value inputs produce less variety and more repetition, as the network only samples the text from fewer sources. InfaKit's interface also has a sampling temperature control ranging from 0.1 to 2.0, which can control the randomness of sampling or the AI's potential for creativity. Together, the diverse and often bizarre references produced by GPT-2 formed AI narratives with fictional characters and scenarios that progress over 6 minutes, from low sampling levels and degrees of randomness to progressively higher levels. Of the 6 samples used in the final video installation, the first 5 form relatively natural narrative prose with ordinary grammatical structures, where the algorithm sampled fewer sources from the network and produced text with a higher probability of making sense. These narratives reveal the plights of fictional characters through relatively coherent yet sporadic and incomplete narrative flows. The final sample, where high temperature and deep sampling was used, was nonsensical, incoherent, illogical gibberish with an aesthetic and rhythmic characteristic of absurd poetry, with the emergence of unpredictable neologisms. The nonsensical text demonstrates ambivalence toward explicit meaning and contradicts the technical purpose that AIs and GPTs are generally designed to enhance. This provokes subjective interpretations of what might captivate an audience through childish playfulness. With Communing with Robots, the AI's credibility was challenged by raising questions about what it might or might not know. Instead of conforming to standard modes of rhetoric logical reasoning behind the use of AIs, their power, and the dangers of their misuse, poetic relief gives agency because the human imagination can fill in the rhetorical gaps the incoherent gibberish opens. InfaKit's controllable interface and temperature controls allow for performative intervention with the depth of GPT-2's neural searches and the degree of randomness to create poetic nonsense, which an audience will not necessarily associate with advanced or threatening technologies when placed into a prominent public space on a rather ordinary screen surface. With GPT's rhetoric is excluded because they cannot know the rhetorical situations beneath the texts. Despite GPT-2's billions of detection parameters to identify, analyze, and generate a text syntax, grammar, and style, the text omits the social and cultural histories and the rhetorical and ethical context of the audience that is the richness of rhetoric perceived by humans.
Can I trust you? Can I trust
Can
you?
I trust you?
Can I trust
Can
you?
he trust you?
Can I trust you?
Can I trust you?
Can he
Can I
trust
trust
you?
you?
Can
he
Can I
trust
trust
you?
you?
Can he trust you?
She took him to a corridor by the house, and without preamble, set him free.
He left her walking by herself.
He saw a light in a courtroom.
He found a jail and made his way inside. He was imprisoned, but it was not as bad as he had feared. His name was put on the list of prisoners for the following day.
He found a cot and began to sleep.
He was taken to the court and given a last chance.
Wilt he haelo getaroint vageli hopping shewastere.
No one was. He walked back to the gates and found a green alchemist. They left the city.
The band had arrived, she could hear it.
It made her feel sick.
Can I trust you?
Can I trust you?
Can I trust you?
Can he trust you?
Can I trust you?
Can he trust you?
Can I trust you?
We
trust you.
No.
Can he trust you?
Seem to be fighting with himself.
I'm not sure I can trust you. I'm not sure I can believe you.
I tried to smile.
You don't have to.
I'll be careful. I promise. I don't know what to believe. I'll be careful. I wasn't sure if I was convincing him or myself.
Okay, Kay.
He nodded.
Okay, Kay.
I didn't know what to do with myself. I paced the room, and then I paced the hall.
I didn't know what to do.
I didn't know where to go. I had no money.
Can I trust you?
I'm sorry, but I
Can he
can't.
trust you?
I'm not a criminal. I'm not a bad person. I'm not even a bad cop.
Can I trust you?
I'm just
Can
a
he trust
guy
you?
trying to do his job. I have to make some hard decisions. If I let you go, it will mean the death of one of my men. You can't know how much I'm going to regret this.
You're not going to kill me?
I'm not going to kill you, but I am going to hurt you. I am going to break you, and then I am going to let you go. I will give you a ride back to your car. I will make sure you get there, but I will not kill you. I can't.
This song took me back to when my grandmother died, and I had gone out there to be with my family. I remember all the happy memories, the new memories that I was making. I remember sitting there as I listened to the words about love. My grandparents told me before they passed,
"Our love is eternal. It does not pass. Love has no birth or death. It just is. It doesn't have to mean heartbreak. You have to remember that, and I do."
Can I trust you?
There was one day when I got to watch my little nephew fall asleep in my arms. My brother rocked him for a bit. I watched him breathing and his lips moving and thinking. It hit me how beautiful life is. A time came when he just laid his head down and never stirred again. In a little while, my brother noticed that his eyes were still open.
Can I trust you?
His background does seem off. An only child.
Maybe his parents were really absent in his life.
I struggle with that thought as well.
Lots of interesting things there. You may want to double-check his history, as well as you approach him and talk to him.
Too many at once, like that, can cause a track-up. Skaya's thought was met with Solo's nod. All right, I'll do my best to explain what I know. The husky slowly leaned back and stretched out both paws, crossing them behind his head and allowing himself to relax. He took a deep breath and sighed, letting his body rest from the fatiguing moment. He looked around and watched the windows shift colors until he caught sight of the party. He walked over to the crate and hopped up on it and leaned into the corner. It was an hour or so.
Mr. Sazo likes big open fields.
Bandits of 4 companies.
A trio of Quilitas appearing. Goliath Ghazi elite rock guys.
Maybe 20 days north of Timbao.
1,000 waves coming, but storm itself will prevail.
Fortunately, our course matistub the tentray bandy which even strikes stone.
Lilat system, despite encountering
Sabu,
much noise,
maybe.
recently drowned Jia.
Shakliate thunder that Akatsuki went to Thiedeke. If someone might hack 36 Ultimate Tea can of Super Slam Garok called Lost Life Straw Bird. Crazy Momaka. We are Jedi small things. Black Magic Thrust Wheel. Gaffaw's Light Warrior.
Communing with robots was installed in the South Bank Parklands and aimed to provide citizens with a space to linger, reflect, and contemplate existence in a hyper-networked public sphere increasingly mediated by information communication technologies.
Communing with robots' subversive rhetoric opens the imagination because the AI appears to be creative.
However, communing with robots' rhetorical and aesthetic potential to mimic and undermine the smart city is paradoxical. Ironically, while the artwork attempted to subvert mechanisms of mass surveillance and overproduction and consumption of data, it became one.
The ontological structures of the city infrastructure's geometric forms, colors, proportions, visual hierarchies, and ubiquitous urban screens used for advertising and urban informatics in public spaces, which is driven by the conflated economics of city development, city branding, and the economics of promoting products and services, are transposed into the ontological structures of communing with robots. Communing with robots is considered a pseudo-advertising device, or what Henri Lefebvre described as an urban problematic. This is a situation where the search for solutions and modalities unique to urban society is foremost.
However, for a transformative urban revolution to occur, society must critically overcome the dominance of industrialist models. While revolutionary events can take place through an exchange of words, signs, writings, and things in the street, urbanism is often reduced to a spectacle of decorative images and objects arranged in uniform grids, colors, displays, and networks organized for and by consumption, accompanied by passive contemplation. As such, communing with robots continues to solicit public thought with rhetorical questions on the Queensland Museum Network's World Science Festival Brisbane website.
What will human agency mean when centralized artificial intelligence mediates our experience of public and private life? Will anonymity, privacy, and trust be possible in a world where AI knows you better than you know yourself?